So let's talk about how the PS5 is doing. Let's talk about how the Xbox Series consoles are doing. First, I want to preface this by saying that, of course, there's a lot of conversation happening right now around the consoles. Like, are they doing well? Is console gaming dying? Is console gaming on its way out? Well, there's a little bit of truth to that, but it seems to be really just kind of focused on one console and one platform. So, what I'm actually talking about here, I'm going to bring this up. This is industry analyst Daniel Ahmad. He says here the PlayStation 5 has sold in 59.2 million units as of March 31st, 2024. This is slightly behind the PS5 in the same time frame, or sorry, the PS4, and the PS4 sold 60 million in the same time frame. He also adds here that Sony does not expect the PS5 to surpass the PS4 in the next year. In other words, while console hardware sales are healthy, Sony is basically saying that they're not expecting to be able to outdo the PS4. And we do have to understand that this is not Sony saying for sure that's not going to happen, but we also know that Sony did let us know that over the next fiscal year they're not going to have any major franchise releases. They're not going to have that big hitter tentpole title to drop alongside the PS5 like a Spider-Man 2 or God of War Ragnarok or Last of Us or anything like that. Not to say that they're not going to have any games. They will, but they're going to be a little bit smaller in size, scale, and scope. And I think the expectation will also be lower. And I think it will just result in what will ultimately be a weaker year for console sales. What I'm going to be really interested to know is if Sony continues to have this attitude going further into the future, going into the next fiscal year, beyond fiscal year 2024, and towards the end of this generation. It'll be interesting to see if the PS5 is ultimately going to end up catching the PS4. But the important thing to take away from this, generally speaking, is the PS5 is in a pretty healthy position right now. It's doing well. Sony sold about like 20.8 or 9 million PS5s the last fiscal year, which is very, very, very good. And it's doing great. So I don't think Sony's necessarily worried about the console, but I think they are being very conservative and maybe just looking at it as, hey, the last year may have been the sales peak of the PS5. We're still going to sell plenty more in the years to come, but we don't expect to do as well. Again, we'll see if that changes. I'm of the belief that if Sony holds some great showcases, they show a pipeline of games that get people excited, I think that will go a long way in selling more PlayStation 5 hardware. But hey, maybe I'm wrong there. That's just me. But here's where things get even more interesting. Is below this, Daniel Ahmad says the PlayStation 5 shipped 4.5 million units in the last quarter. According to our estimates, this is almost 5 times more. 5 times more than the Xbox Series X and S shipped in the same period. And he says here, with a little joke, there's a bonus for console warriors. His rent is due. Daniel Ahmad's rent is due. Yeah, that's crazy. That is absolutely insane. And what this tells you is that, yeah, the Xbox Series consoles sold somewhere around 800K units. It didn't even hit 1 million units. That's for a quarter, by the way. That's not for like a month. That's for 3 months. That is staggering. So it is not at all an exaggeration to say that the PS5 is utterly obliterating the Xbox Series consoles at this point in time. This to me looks even worse, truthfully, than the Xbox One. The Xbox One really struggled up against the PS4. We know that, but it still kind of hung in there a little bit, right? In the end, I don't think that's happening right now. I don't think the Series X or the Series S is going to hang in there. I think it's completely over. I just don't know how you could see something like this and not see how dire the situation is for the Xbox consoles. It is unfortunate. I'm not happy to see this, truthfully. I know some people are going to think I am, but I'm not, because this really does seem to indicate that the Xbox console is on its last leg, and there's going to be, seemingly, there already is. Let's face it. Look at these numbers. There's one less competitor, to compete in the console space. I think Microsoft is going to continue to support the Series consoles. Obviously, they're going to have another console, but it's not really going to matter. It's not going to be like an actual competitive console that's going to be out there competing with the PlayStation 6, with the next Nintendo Switch. It's really just going to be Sony and Nintendo, unless somebody else wants to enter the market, but I don't think that's likely to happen. So it is unfortunate, certainly, to see the Xbox console fall so far. I'm at least happy, though, that the PS5 is in a healthy spot. And so this kind of brings me to the conclusion here. Like, what's going on with console gaming? Is console gaming on its way out? Is it as disastrous as some people are making it sound? Certainly not. Certainly not. The PS5 is, again, doing well, and it's on track to do well enough. I mean, it seems likely the PS5 is going to at least hit 100 million units sold lifetime-wise, which is very good for a console. Again, will it hit the PS4 numbers? Hard to say. It's tracking ahead the PS4 in the US specifically, but globally it's about 800K behind. We're going to have to wait to see about that, but it's in a healthy position. The Nintendo Switch obviously did incredible throughout its life cycle, and Nintendo's gearing up to put out the Switch 2. I think it's safe to say the Switch 2 will do well. Well to very well. I don't think it's going to do poorly. I think Nintendo would have to really mess things up big time to, get the Switch 2 off to a poor start sales-wise. So I think going forward, we're going to see a healthy console market, really driven by Sony and Nintendo. And I think Microsoft will still be part of it, but they're also kind of not. Like, they're just going to kind of feel like a ghost lingering around in a way. If things play out the way seemingly they are now, if it continues down this road. But yeah, I thought that this was some really interesting data to go over, and just wanted to kind of talk to you guys about how the PlayStation 5 is looking, how this generation competition-wise is looking between the PS5 and the Series consoles, and how the console market in general is looking. The last thing I'll say here is, for me, it's really looking starting April 2025 and beyond. I know that's a ways, I know it's like a whole year from now, but that's really what I'm going to be paying attention to, because it seems clear to me that Sony has games, hopefully a lot of games, some of their bigger games, for the second half of the generation lined up for later in 2025, 2026, 2027, maybe even 2028. I really am curious to see if, once Sony starts revealing these games, and more importantly, once they actually start coming out, how much of a factor they're going to play in really driving console sales. We also don't know what Sony's planning to do PC-wise. We know that they're going to get more aggressive with PC, but we don't know exactly what that looks like. So it'll be very interesting to see how this all unfolds. But right now, this is where it stands. So I'm going to leave it to you guys. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Leave the video a like if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're new. Hit the bell notification icon. And feel free to share this video out on top of all that. But until next time, guys, take care.